Hey, ladies and gents, Joe here, the guy who was staring into the abyss that is Apex cards, and I didn't blink. And I'm here to talk about UFC Fight Night, Hermansson versus Pyfer. It wasn't fun for me, admittingly. I'll get to why. So, enough talk. Let's get to the fights. So in the main event, we had a third straight middleweight main event. Jack Hermansson and Joe Pyfer. And the UFC, I feel like, is trying to convince us that middleweight isn't a depleted and drained division that actually has a deep talent pool with great talent. And it hasn't been working at convincing us otherwise of that is the case. So Jack Hermansson, he's this guy. He has some really... He's this guy. You know, he's been around for a while. He has a lot of really cool tricks, but he's always failed, I feel like, to break through that ceiling and become that legitimate contender. Like, it's kind of hard to buy him as a legitimate contender. He's kind of become, like, in my opinion, like a top 10 gatekeeper, and he's taking on Joe Pyfer, a guy who they love bringing up, broke Francis Ngannou's punch power record. I feel like this week I couldn't go a day without seeing an article or a YouTube video or Pyfer himself talking about it. It's an impressive feat, don't get me wrong, but it just kind of reeks of pettiness by the UFC. We all know they're very, very bitter still about the Ngannou situation, with him wanting to be paid adequately, wanting other fighters to be paid adequately, and getting not re-signing because of that. So the fight starts off. Pyfer is putting on a whooping on Hermansson. Big punches, nearly finishes on multiple occasions in the first round. Second round, clear advantage in the striking, but in the second round, you can see glimpses that Hermansson is building momentum. And that momentum just kind of escalates and takes over, as from the third round on, Hermansson is winning. He's winning the fight clearly. So Hermansson, he's really, really taking it to Pyfer in these last three rounds. He's even walking him down at some points, which definitely, just a very good sign that when you're walking down a guy with that much power confidently. And he was going for takedowns multiple times in the fight, could never get it, except in the final round he gets it, ending the fight with good control and some strikes in there. That leads to a decision, and something that is, admittingly, really funny to me. This was a close fight. I think that first round you can argue is a 10-8, which would make it a draw. But Hermansson does take a unanimous decision win. All three judges scored that first round a 10-9. This is a close fight. Usually in close fights, when you get on Twitter, you see everybody going, well, I thought it was like this, I thought it was like this. You know what I mean? Instead, people are more so groaning about the quality of fight nights overall, which I think is very telling. And I think it's funny, and I admittingly agree with it, because what is going on here? Friend of the channel, Grabaka Hitman Kaposa, on Twitter, had a perfect tweet talking about the state of the UFC product and doing these Apex cards. There's no excitement or energy really there for the fights, and this product is beginning to feel like homogenized, very homogenized product we're kind of getting. It lacking really anything of note whenever they show off these Apex cards. And they love doing these Apex cards because they're cheap and easy to do. And they just pump them out all the time. And it sucks because there's no crowds. It's just like really like maybe like 20 people in there, and that's not enough to like really get a vibe going. And if it wasn't for, I'll admit this, if it wasn't for the love I have talking to you guys on this channel, making great or trying to make great content, I think I'm pretty awesome, admittingly. Then I probably wouldn't watch Fight Nights if I wasn't doing this, right? Probably wouldn't watch Fight Nights anymore unless they were not at the Apex. At least I wouldn't. So I wouldn't watch Apex cards, admittingly, because of how much I feel like they have decreased in quality in these last couple years. I don't know if that's me just getting sick of the Apex, or if like the can't even talk, if the quality of the product is legitimately getting worse. It could be a mixed combination of both. It could be one or the other. And I want to say this. I made a joke about middleweight earlier. I feel like any division put in this spot, almost any division, I think, I would be feeling the same way about. I don't think the issue is something to do with the quality of the in-cage action, but as me and Carl talked about, we talked about it, I believe it was on the preview show we had shot. We talked about how there was definitely a plus to having a great fight in certain circumstances. So, for example, let's take fighter A and fighter B. They put on a great fight, but it's the opening fight on the main card of an Apex card, right? Okay, now let's take that same exact fight, the exact same fight, and it happens at the main event of Madison Square Garden on a pay-per-view. What fight is going to be held in higher regard? The one in the main event of Madison Square Garden, right? Even if it just goes 3 rounds, right? Like, don't even take the extra rounds. Let's not look into it like that. Let's say 3 rounds. It ends at 4:59. A great fight kind of thing. That MSG card is going to be held much higher regard because of the energy of the crowd that's going to be going crazy for a great fight, and the stakes, the feeling of that. You know that feeling when you watch live sports. There's a reason why live sports do so well. There's a reason why professional wrestling had a little bit of a crisis during COVID, or I probably shouldn't say that word. During the pandemic, I guess that's a safe word, maybe. I don't know what the YouTube gods want. No one knows what they want. But they had a little bit of an issue during that period because there was no crowd. And that's a sport that needs a crowd to kind of be their lifeblood. So, I mean, this rant is really just me lamenting the Apex. I think the Apex is a negative towards the enjoyment of the UFC's current product. That's just me. I'm genuinely curious how you guys feel in the comment. Am I just being a hater or something? I'm genuinely curious how other people feel about this. I trust and value everyone's opinions in these comments. Let's get to the rest of the card, because I ranted for a long time, and I knew I'm just going to do the rest of the card. Dan Ige, quick KO win over Andre Fili. Perfect time because he had to rush home. His wife apparently went into labor as they were walking out. Ihor Pretoria, he's still pretty cringe. He Fortnite danced on Shogun. But he did outmatch Robert Brychek by unanimous decision. Gregory Robocop Rodriguez and Brad Tavares, they actually had a really fun fight, I thought, that ended with a standing TKO win for Robocop. Michael Johnson, the Menace, the man with one of the wildest resumes ever, got a unanimous decision win over Darius Flowers. Rodolfo Vieira, he got an arm triangle win over Armin Petrosian, which I think they said was the most in UFC history, most arm triangle choke wins. Carlos Prates got a random KO over Trevin Giles, and a not very eventful fight, but a pretty good highlight at least. Balaji Oki got a split decision win over Tim Kuamba. Luke Boonmi, I always struggle with her name, got a unanimous decision win over Bruno Brazil. Marcin Prachnio put on a kicking clinic over Devin Clark for a decision win. Max Griffin got a split decision win over Jeremiah Wells. Can't talk today, I apologize. Bogdan Guskov got a big KO win over Zach Paulinga. Haider Emil got a TKO win over Fernie Garcia, in a way kind of keeping up him building up promise. I think he's unbeaten in the UFC. That might have been his debut as well, though, so you never really know with those guys. Finally, Daniel Marcos and Aori Kayin, they had one of the weirdest interactions I've ever seen in a fight. Constant foul, then constant foul, then constant foul, then another foul, until it ends in a no contest from an accidental groin strike that Marcos landed. Yeah. But that's it for me. I'll, of course, be back next week to recap UFC 298, and we got a brand new retro review coming out next week. I'm so pumped. It comes out on Thursday. We also have a great preview show that me and Carl shot. We've already shot it. UFC 298, obviously, next week, so we preview that. Brains all over the place today. See what Apex cards do to me? We also have a brand new interview out on the channel. It came out Friday. Please go check it out. It's fantastic. And we're actually, keeping up this great train of content we got coming out. Me and Carl are about to shoot our newest series, INC Uncaged, which is a Patreon exclusive. So if you're interested in checking out this great new series me and Carl have, then please join our Patreon. And as a bonus, you get to nominate a card for me to watch and review on the Retro Review series. It's great stuff. I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you so much for watching.